Yes, the budget definitely had an area that we thought was a very positive thing for our region, for our state, which was a stronger commitment and increase in funding for our local infrastructure, our local roads, bridges, and culverts through programs like the CHIPS program, the Pave New York program, and the Extreme Winter Recovery program. Senator O'Mara, myself, and our regional delegations have been, for the past 9 years, since 2013, we've been hosting a press conference and rally up in Albany with 700 highway superintendents from around the state to come up and push and ask for an increase in our state's commitment to local infrastructure. And this year, we've seen the first increase in CHIPS Space Aid since 2013. So we've seen some progress there. And this is important for a number of reasons. First of all, from a safety perspective, our local roads and bridges and culverts are a critical infrastructure piece. How many of us put our kids on a school bus every morning? They go over a local road or bridge. How about a first responder trying to get to emergency if a road is out or a bridge is out? That could be a delay and that could be problematic. Certainly critical to our local economy, because local municipalities hire local contractors who will hire local jobs, which helps our local economy. And certainly to the local property taxpayer. Every dollar that we invest in the CHIPS program is one less dollar that comes from the local property taxpayer. Every dollar we invest in the CHIPS program is saves $6 to $14 in long-term rehabilitation costs for our infrastructure. And a lot of times when we've been having this debate over the years, many of my colleagues focus on the MTA and talk about how that's the lifeblood of the downstate transportation network. And I agree with that. And we're supportive of the MTA. We have businesses and industry up here like Alstom and others that support the MTA, and the jobs are presented for it, are work for it. But what we've argued all along is that CHIPS programs like CHIPS and Pave New York, that's the lifeblood of our upstate transportation network. And sometimes it's the only dollars our local communities have to spend on their local roads and bridges. So to have this significant increase in funding this year is really what we said when we made the announcement of it, is long overdue. Certainly welcomed, and I think our local officials will certainly welcome this funding. It's a good news for our local municipalities. It's a good news for our local property taxpayers. Our local property taxpayers deserve to have some of their state tax dollars coming back to their local communities to fix their local infrastructure, just like anyone in the downstate area deserves to have some of their revenue come back for their downstate transportation network. So that's why we made this push. We had a collaboration with our colleagues in the Senate and the Assembly. We sent a letter to the governor and the legislative leaders back in March. We had a press conference back in March. Unfortunately, we didn't have the rally like we normally did because of COVID. But last year, I remember we had over 200 or 700 plus highway superintendents, and it's what we usually have. But given the circumstances, we couldn't. But even though they weren't here in person, we heard their voice, we heard them in spirit, and it was just very rewarding to be able to see this part of the budget. I've been critical of the budget, but this is one area that certainly was, I think, a significant accomplishment and a positive accomplishment for our region and for our local communities and municipalities. Well, I think the reason we focus on the local infrastructure piece of it is because it goes right to these local communities. I mean, many of these local communities, with the tax cap, it's kind of hard to raise additional revenue to provide that infrastructure fix. And then certainly with what happened with COVID, the loss of revenue, the damage to our economy that's happened from that perspective, that's why these funds are even more critical now. But infrastructure is always an important investment, whether it's being done at the federal level, state level. But we've been trying, Senator O'Mara and myself, again, since 2013, we've helped lead this charge with our colleagues to show the importance of focusing on our local infrastructure and why that's important. It does pay dividends from a safety perspective, from an economic perspective, from tourism perspective. Businesses, businesses locate in towns, villages, and cities. So it's great to have a great interstate, but if the local road or bridge is out, that doesn't help from a visible perspective to help that local business. So the same thing with our tourism industry. What great is to have our interstate, but if the local roads going to those tourist destinations are a mess, that doesn't help. So it kind of works together. So, investments in infrastructure are good investments. We want them to be balanced. And that's why, many of our colleagues in the downstate area push for MTA funding. And we've always pushed for parity between the downstate MTA capital plan and the DOT roads and bridges capital plan. And that's something we've always pushed for, and that's we've had to fight for. And I think this year we've really seen a big difference especially with this funding increase in funding, significant increase in funding going to our local communities through the CHIPS program, PAVE program, Extreme Winter Recovery, and then this new program for local touring roads, which we'll see how that plays out for our local municipalities as well. But to have, and I guess the point I'm trying to make, our local taxpayers deserve to have some of their state tax dollars come back to their local communities to fix their local roads, bridges, and culverts, just like the downstate members, individuals want to see their dollars come back for their area. So the MTA is the lifeblood of the transportation downstate transportation network. Our CHIPS is the lifeblood of our upstate transportation network. And again, sometimes that's the only dollars these local communities receive. So that's why I know this funding is welcome funding for them. And that's why Senator Mara, myself, and some friend have pushed for this year after year in the state budget. And we're just happy to see the success on this particular area with the state budget this year.